Johnny Carson didn't just host late night. He controlled the weather. The laugh breaks, the silences, the way a raised eyebrow could flip a room. At his peak, more people watched him than Monday Night Football. But there was a rule no one saw. If you cracked the rhythm, you were done. Most guests danced with him. A few tried to lead. One stormed his office and made a threat. Another turned the couch into an infomercial. One faked powers on live TV and melted under pressure. Another lectured like he was testifying to Congress, and a beloved icon proved a brutal truth about television. Kindness can lose to the clock. Carson never screamed. He never made it a headline. He just drew a line and enforced it. Silently, absolutely. 7 names, 7 lifetime bans. Not punishment. Protection. Protection of tone, timing, and trust. Tonight, we open the file Johnny never read on air. The 7 guests he banned for life, and the exact moments that sealed it. The first, it didn't start with a joke. It started with a closed door in Burbank, and a confrontation that was shocking. It started with a punchline and ended with a closed door. Carson tossed off a light jab. Wayne Newton's hair needed photosynthesis, and the audience roared. For most stars, that's late-night oxygen. For Newton, it hit a nerve. He'd sunk millions into the Aladdin and curated an immaculate image. A nick in that polish felt costly. Taping day. Burbank. Newton shows up unannounced, moving down the corridor like a storm front, silk shirt open, jaw tight, hands ready. He doesn't ask for the green room. He heads for Johnny's office. The room is mid-card review when the door swings wide. Newton doesn't smile. He lays it down. The jokes stop. Now or else. Not banter, not bravado, a direct threat. It was shocking. Carson didn't flinch. He didn't rise, didn't argue, didn't perform. He picked up the phone. Security. Effective immediately, Newton's off limits. His name disappears from booking boards. Memos circulate with his photo and clear instructions. That night's monologue cuts any Newton tags, not out of fear but out of policy. The line has been crossed, and Carson's rule becomes simple. Intimidate the host. Lose the privilege permanently. Behind the scenes, crew felt the temperature snap back to normal. In front of the camera, nothing changed. Johnny stayed cool. The jokes still landed. The show kept its rhythm. But the message pulsed through Hollywood. You can tease the king. You cannot threaten the crown. And not every exile needed fists. The next one happened under hot lights, with calm questions, cold props, and a self-proclaimed psychic who ran out of power the moment the tricks weren't his. Carson loved real sleight of hand. That's why fakes drove him crazy. When spoonbender Yuri Geller booked the show in 1973, Johnny called in the one man who could bulletproof the segment, skeptic James Randi. Randi supplied everything: sealed envelopes with drawings, film canisters no one had touched, restaurant-grade spoons, even a compass. No planted props, no backstage swaps, just cold, controlled conditions. Geller walked on confident, perfectly pressed, riding a wave of hype. Then the envelopes came out. Nothing. The compass, no movement. The spoon, still a spoon. He stalled, whispered about bad energy, asked for time, said he didn't feel strong. The room cooled. Carson stayed courteous but surgical, letting the silence do the cutting. When the laugh finally landed, it wasn't with wonder. It was with realization. The collapse was shocking. After the show, letters poured in, some cheering the takedown, others scolding Carson for being unfair. Bookings elsewhere weirdly spiked for Geller, but the Tonight Show door shut for good. Carson made a policy. If you claim the impossible, you use our props. And if you're caught leaning on tricks, there's no second chance. Protection of the audience beat protection of anyone's act. Not every exile exposed a gimmick. Some revealed something uglier. Ego that thought it could sit in Johnny's chair. Next up, the rising star who joked about replacing the king and got iced the instant he tried. The first time he came on, Chevy was charming, quick, dry, perfectly tuned to Johnny's pace. The second time, fame had weight. He led with box office numbers like a scoreboard, smirked at the set, and treated the guest chair like a temporary throne. Then came the line that froze the room. He could outdrive Johnny on the course, maybe even out-host him at 11:30. Laughter wobbled. Johnny's smile didn't move. On air, Carson stayed velvet. Off air, the air turned glass. During the break, Chevy kept preening. Big projects, bigger calls, happy to help when NBC needed fresher talent. Johnny said little, just the quiet rhythm of a pencil tapping the desk as a verdict formed. When the cameras cut for good, the blacklist clicked into place. No memo, no public feud. Just silence that spoke volumes. If you hint at taking the chair, you'll never sit in it. The chill followed Chase for years. Agents felt it. Bookers heard it. And when the Chevy Chase show launched in 1992, Johnny offered no blessing, no advice, no nod. 5 chaotic weeks later, the experiment collapsed. The lesson was brutal and simple. Respect the crown or learn why no one else wears it. Ego got iced. Next came something colder. An icon who treated the couch like a cash register and turned conversation into a commercial. Some guests arrived to play jazz with Johnny. Bob Hope showed up with sheet music. Before taping, his team delivered thick packets. Setups, punchlines, sponsor mentions, even preferred camera angles. On air, Hope waited for the cue like a metronome and fired the next canned line. Johnny tried to riff, asked a follow-up that bent the bit, and watched the conversation snap back to the card. Then came the tipping point. 3 Texaco plugs in barely 7 minutes. The jokes felt pre-sold. The couch, a billboard. The audience laughed, but the oxygen was thinner. Spontaneity, the soul of Carson's show, was getting priced out. Johnny drew a boundary. He told producers he wouldn't run infomercials disguised as interviews. NBC balked. Hope was sponsor gold, but Carson didn't bluff. Either the show stayed honest, or he was out. The network blinked. No blow-up, no headlines. Just a quiet freeze. Hope's calls stopped being returned. His name slid off the booking board, and the Tonight Show's rhythm snapped back to life. A rule was etched in stone. Authentic conversation beats legendary status every time. But sometimes, the danger wasn't ads. It was time itself. Up next is the Hollywood Titan, who turned quick Q&A into marathon speeches, and found out what happens when late night runs out of runway. Johnny tossed an easy one. Any injuries on those chariot scenes? And expected a crisp tale. Charlton Heston leaned back and opened a time capsule. Childhood ranching, Yale training, Greek tragedy, art and liberty. 5 minutes later, we finally reached the broken rib. The band sat idle. The audience waited for the laugh that never came. Johnny's show ran on snap and spark. This felt like office hours. Ratings later confirmed it. Laughs cratered whenever the speeches stretched past a minute. Then came the night Heston turned a movie chat into a 15-minute freedom address. It wasn't hostile. It was worse for late night. Momentum killing. Carson's face stayed polite, pencil resting in that measured grip. But the verdict was forming. This isn't a seminar, it's midnight entertainment. Backstage, Johnny spelled it out for his team. Television has a heartbeat. If a guest can't hear it, the audience flatlines first. Heston wasn't punished for passion. He was benched for pace. The ban arrived without headlines, just absence. And a quiet rule set in. Depth is welcome, but drown the rhythm and you're done. Next came the opposite problem. Not lectures, but whiplash. A human grenade of insults and chaos who broke more than a bit. He broke something personal. Don Rickles was a thrill ride you couldn't buckle. He blitzed everyone, guests, audience, even Johnny, and then grinned like a kid who'd gotten away with it. But chaos has a tab. In 1976, while guest hosting during Johnny's vacation, Rickles grabbed Carson's treasured walnut cigarette box, an old gift with real meaning, and cracked the lid mid-riff. The studio laughed. The keepsake didn't. Johnny returned the next night, spotted the damage, and turned irritation into live theater. Marching onto the CPO Sharkey set, with cameras rolling and barking, "You broke my box!" America howled. Off camera, Johnny kept score. Rickles ignored timing lights. He steamrolled segments. He pushed jokes the censors had redlined. The broken box became shorthand in Studio One. Funny, sure, but expensive. Then came 1985. Rickles targeted a woman in the front row, and the complaint letters slammed in. Johnny's verdict was quiet and final. No spectacle, no feud, just a lifetime ban delivered in silence to protect the show, the audience, and the rhythm he guarded like a vault. Not every exile came from heat and insults. The last one hurt in a different way. A gentle legend whose kindness moved hearts, and still couldn't outrun the clock. On paper, it looked perfect. 5 minutes of gentle conversation, a quick puppet moment, a warm reset between the hard-sell celebrity segments. Fred Rogers walked out like a hush, soft wave, soft voice, that careful Pittsburgh cadence, and the room melted. Then the clock pushed back. Johnny tossed an icebreaker about wearing sneakers in Fred's honor. Rogers answered with pure sincerity and stopped. No wink, no flip, just stillness. The laugh cue had nowhere to land. In the booth, camera plans slid off schedule. Cue cards got crossed out. Every beat drifted 30 seconds behind and kept drifting. The audience smiled, but the oxygen thinned. Minute-by-minute numbers later showed the dip. Not a collapse, just a steady slide you can't ignore at 11:45 p.m. Johnny admired the man. Everyone did. But late night is a drum, not a lullaby. After the show, the verdict was mercy, disguised as steel. Rogers wouldn't be asked back. Not from malice, but because the format ate him alive. The door closed quietly. No statement, no feud, just a private rule reinforced. Even the kindest guest can't outrun the clock. 7 bands, 7 different lines crossed. Threats, fakery, ego, ads, lectures, chaos, and a pace too gentle to survive. Johnny Carson's greatest trick wasn't a punchline, it was control. He protected the rhythm, the invisible pulse that made midnight feel effortless. When guests crossed the line, he didn't wage public wars or feed the tabloids. He set boundaries and kept them. Threats were out. Fakery was out. Ego that challenged the chair, out. Ads masquerading as conversation, out. Lectures that smothered momentum, out. Chaos that hurt people, out. And even gentleness that couldn't meet the clock, out. 7 bands, 7 lessons in how a show survives. What looks like gossip is really craft. Carson understood that late night is a living thing. It breathes with timing, trust, and authenticity. Break those, and the laughs die first. He chose the show over the moment, the audience over the awkward smile, the standard over the star. That's not cruelty, that's stewardship. In the end, the secret of the king wasn't just making America laugh. It was knowing when to say never again and meaning it.